First contact fallout. The emergency klaxons wailed throughout the bridge of the HSV Defiant, bathing the command center in pulsing crimson light. Commander Ilara Voss gripped the command rail as another impact rocked the warship. Damage reports flooded her neural interface faster than she could process them. Status on the forward shield array. She barked, her voice cutting through the cacophony of battle stations reporting failures across the ship. Lieutenant Kai Nakamura's fingers danced across the tactical display. Forward shields at 23% and falling, Commander. Whatever those bastards are firing, it's eating through our defenses like acid through tissue paper. Voss swore under her breath. The Meridian 7 colony had sent out a distress call only 14 hours ago. By the time the Defiant arrived in system, half the orbital defense platforms were already smoking debris, and the remaining platforms were engaged with vessels unlike anything humanity had encountered in its 3 centuries of space exploration. The alien ships, if they could even be called ships, resembled massive crystalline spires that moved with impossible grace. Their hulls shimmered with an iridescent energy field that deflected conventional kinetic weapons, and they fired streams of particles that seemed to partially phase through matter itself. Targeting solutions on the lead vessel, Voss asked, her steel-gray eyes fixed on the main view screen where one of the alien spires was completing another attack run on Meridian 7's remaining orbital defenses. Negative, Commander. Their energy signatures keep shifting. Our targeting systems can't get a lock, Nakamura replied, frustration evident in his voice. Chief Science Officer Dr. Marcus Chen approached from the science station, his normally composed demeanor replaced with barely contained excitement. Commander, I've analyzed the sensor readings from the last 3 attacks. There's a pattern to their phase-shifting technology. I need solutions, not observations, Dr. Voss snapped, then immediately regretted her tone. Chen was brilliant, possibly the most brilliant mind in the Terran fleet, but he worked at his own pace. Chen seemed unfazed by her impatience. The aliens, that Xylanthe, based on the communication signals we've intercepted, are using a quantum displacement field to partially shift their vessels out of our reality. That's why our weapons can't fully connect. But there's a fluctuation cycle, a 3-second window where they're fully in our phase space. Hope, dangerous and fleeting, sparked in Voss's chest. Can we exploit that? Chen's eyes lit up. Theoretically, yes, if we time our weapons fire to coincide with. The ship lurched violently, throwing both of them against the command console. The lights flickered, and several stations erupted in showers of sparks. Direct hit to engineering, shouted the damage control officer. Coolant leak in the primary fusion chamber. Containment fields holding, but backup systems are offline. Voss steadied herself. Sound evacuation orders for decks 16 through 20. Tactical. What hit us? Nakamura's face had gone pale. One of the smaller vessels, Commander. It phased partially through our hull before detonating. They're using suicide tactics now, Voss muttered. The situation was deteriorating faster than she could formulate a response. Meridian 7 housed over 3 million colonists. If the Defiant withdrew, those people would be at the mercy of an enemy that had shown no interest in communication. Commander, Chen said, his voice suddenly tight with urgency. Look at the colony. The main view screen shifted to show Meridian 7's primary settlement. Buildings were collapsing as if being crushed by an invisible force. The very ground seemed to be sinking inward, creating a massive depression centered on the colony's fusion reactor complex. What am I looking at, Doctor? Voss asked, but the sinking feeling in her stomach told her she already knew. They're extracting energy, Chen confirmed. Quantum-level energy harvesting. They're not just attacking the colony, they're consuming it. The implications were staggering. A species capable of direct energy extraction at that scale would view human settlements as nothing more than convenient fuel sources. Lieutenant Commander Reynolds, Voss called to her XO, who had been coordinating damage control efforts. Prepare an emergency jump calculation. We need to warn Earth Command. Reynolds looked up from his station, his face a mask of disciplined professionalism despite the chaos. The jump drive sustained damage in that last hit, Commander. Engineering reports we can make one jump, but they can't guarantee accuracy beyond 80%. An 80% chance of reaching the right system versus a 100% chance of being destroyed here, Voss said grimly. I'll take those odds. She activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is Commander Voss. Prepare for emergency jump in 2 minutes. Secure all stations and brace for possible spatial distortion. As the crew rushed to comply, Voss turned back to Chen. Doctor, I need everything you've learned about these Hylanthi compiled and ready to transmit the moment we reach safe space. If they follow us, they will, Chen interrupted. Their sensor technology is at least a generation beyond ours. They'll track our jump signature. Voss nodded. Then we need a countermeasure before they follow us home. Chen's expression shifted, his scientific detachment giving way to determination. There might be something. It's experimental, but given what we've observed about their quantum displacement technology, I believe we could create a disruption field that would force them fully into our phase space, making them vulnerable to conventional weapons, Voss finished, understanding immediately. Precisely. But I'd need access to a quantum dynamics laboratory. The equipment on the Defiant is insufficient. The research station at Proxima Centauri, Reynolds suggested. It's equipped with the latest quantum physics arrays, and it's only one jump from here. Voss considered this. Proxima Centauri was a major research hub, but had minimal military presence. If the Hylanthi followed them there, the station would be defenseless. But it might be their only chance to develop a weapon capable of fighting these entities. Set course for Proxima Centauri, Voss ordered, and pray we have enough time once we arrive. Another impact rocked the ship as one of the alien vessels made a strafing run along the Defiant's port side. Hull breach on Deck 12, reported the damage control officer. Emergency bulkheads engage. We're losing atmosphere in sections 9 through 15. Jump drive charged at 93%. Nakamura called out, ready to initiate on your command. Voss took one last look at Meridian 7 on the view screen. The colony was now the center of a massive vortex of energy being drawn upward into the largest of the Hylanthi vessels. It was like watching a world being unmade. We'll be back, she promised quietly. Then, louder, initiate jump. The stars on the view screen elongated as space itself seemed to fold around the Defiant. The familiar disorientation of faster-than-light travel washed over the bridge crew, amplified by the damaged drive's struggle to maintain coherence. When reality reasserted itself, the view screen showed the familiar configuration of the Proxima Centauri system. The research station gleamed in the light of the red dwarf star, its massive arrays pointed toward the depths of space. We made it, Reynolds said, not bothering to hide his relief. Jump accuracy was within acceptable parameters. We're approximately 20,000 kilometers from the research station. Hail them, Voss ordered. Priority 1 emergency protocol. I need to speak with Station Director Harlow immediately. As communications established a link with the station, Voss turned to Chen. How much time do you think we have before they follow us here? Chen's expression was grim, based on their energy signatures and the complexity of tracking a damaged jump drive signature. 6 hours, maybe less. 6 hours to develop a weapon against an enemy that outmatched them technologically in every way. 6 hours to prevent the fall of another human settlement. 6 hours to prepare for a battle that might determine the fate of the entire species. Then we'd better not waste a minute, Voss said. Doctor, you'll have every resource the station can provide. Lieutenant Commander Reynolds, coordinate with the station's security team to prepare defensive measures. Lieutenant Nakamura, I want damage control teams working around the clock to get our weapons systems back to full capacity. As her officers moved to carry out their orders, Voss stared at the now empty space on the view screen where the Hylanthi would eventually appear. Humanity had faced extinction-level threats before, from within and without. Each time, They had survived through ingenuity, determination, and an absolute refusal to succumb to despair. This time would be no different. It couldn't be. The connection with the research station established, and Director Harlow's concerned face appeared on the screen. "Commander Voss, we received your priority signal." "What's?" "Director, I need your quantum dynamics lab prepared for immediate use," Voss interrupted. "And I need your station on full alert status. We've made first contact with a hostile species, and they're following us here." To his credit, Harlow didn't waste time with questions or expressions of disbelief. He simply nodded once and said, "The lab will be ready in 30 minutes. How much time do we have to prepare?" "Less than 6 hours," Voss replied. "And Director, they can consume entire colonies for energy. If we fail here, Proxima Centauri will be just the beginning." The implications hung in the space between them, unspoken but understood. This wasn't just about saving one research station or one colony. This was potentially about the survival of the human race. "We won't fail," Harlow said, with the quiet confidence of a scientist who had faced impossible problems before. "Send your science officer over immediately. We'll start working on your countermeasure." As the communication ended, Voss looked around at her bridge crew. They were battered, exhausted, and faced with a threat beyond anything in their training. But in their eyes, she saw not fear, but resolve. "You heard the Director," she said. "We have less than 6 hours to prepare a welcome party for our new friends." For the first time since the klaxons had begun their mournful wail above Meridian 7, a hint of a smile crossed Commander Ilara Voss's face. That Xylanthe might have superior technology and devastating weapons, but they were about to learn a painful lesson about humanity. Humans didn't go quietly into the night, and they certainly didn't surrender their worlds without a fight. The Meridian Protocol. Dr. Marcus Chen stared at the quantum probability matrix floating in the holographic display before him. 5 hours had passed since the Defiant's desperate jump to Proxima Centauri, and the solution continued to elude him. The Tylanthe's phase-shifting technology operated on principles that defied conventional physics. "You're thinking about this wrong," said Dr. Abigail Harlow, the station's director. She gestured at the simulation. "You're trying to counter their tech with our understanding of quantum mechanics." Chen ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "And what would you suggest? We hardly have time to develop an entirely new branch of physics." Harlow's eyes glinted with the peculiar light of scientific inspiration. "Not new physics, old physics. Their phase-shifting technology relies on quantum superposition on a macro scale. But even the most sophisticated quantum systems have a vulnerability." "Observation," Chen breathed, understanding immediately. "The quantum observer effect." "Exactly. We can't match their technology, but we can force them to collapse their quantum state by essentially observing them at the subatomic level." Chen's fingers flew across the console, inputting new parameters. A targeted stream of tachyons, faster than light particles, would theoretically interact with their phase-shifted matter before it fully exits our reality, forcing a quantum collapse and trapping them fully in our phase space, Harlow finished, excitement building in her voice. "But generating and controlling a tachyon stream of that magnitude." "The station's primary fusion reactor," Chen said. "If we reroute power through the quantum harmonics array and modify it to, we'd burn out the entire system within minutes," Harlow countered. "Minutes might be all we need." The laboratory door slid open, and Commander Voss entered. The past 5 hours had aged her visibly, but her posture remained unbent, her gaze unwavering. "Tell me you have something, Doctor," she said without preamble. Chen nodded, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten in the excitement of scientific breakthrough. "We believe we can force the Xylanthe vessels fully into our reality, making them vulnerable to conventional weapons. But it requires converting the station's quantum harmonics array into a tachyon emitter, which will burn out the station's power grid," Harlow added, "and potentially destabilize the reactor." Voss absorbed this without visible reaction. "How long would we have?" 3 minutes, maybe 4, Chen replied. After that, the array will fail, and that Xylanthe will be able to phase shift again. 3 minutes to destroy an entire alien fleet, Voss mused. Better odds than we had at Meridian 7. Her neural interface chimed with an incoming priority message. Commander, came Lieutenant Nakamura's voice, tense with urgency. Long-range sensors have detected quantum disturbances consistent with the Xylanthe vessels. Estimated arrival, 20 minutes. Understood. Implement defensive protocol Echo 9. I'm on my way. Voss turned back to the scientists. You have 20 minutes to get your tachyon emitter operational. Make them count. As she left, Harlow turned to Chen with a grim expression. Even if this works, the Defiant can't possibly destroy all those vessels in 3 minutes. Chen's eyes narrowed in thought. Maybe we don't need to destroy them all. That Xylanthe fleet operates with a hierarchical structure. At Meridian 7, the smaller vessels never acted independently of the command ship. Cut off the head, and the body falls, Harlow said, understanding. But how do we identify the command vessel? Chen activated his neural interface, connecting to the station's primary database. The Defiant sensor logs from Meridian 7 showed distinct communication patterns between the vessels. If we analyzed those patterns, we could identify their command structure. Harlow finished, already moving to another console to assist with the analysis. Time seemed to compress as they worked, the minutes ticking away with merciless precision. Engineering teams raced to modify the quantum harmonics array according to their specifications, while the station's defensive systems were brought to full alert. Chen's neural interface chimed with a message from Commander Voss. Doctor, status report. The modifications are nearly complete, Chen replied. We've identified what we believe is the Xylanthe command vessel based on communication patterns observed at Meridian 7. If we can destroy it, the rest of the fleet may be vulnerable or disorganized. Understood. The Defiant will focus its firepower on the target you designate. There was a pause before Voss continued. Doctor, if this works, the implications go beyond saving Proxima Centauri. This technology could be our only defense against further Xylanthe incursions. I'm aware, Commander, Chen said solemnly. We're implementing a recording protocol to capture all data during the engagement. If, when we succeed, we'll have everything needed to reproduce the effect. Good. The Xylanthe vessels approaching outer sensor perimeter. Estimated time to weapons range, 6 minutes. Chen turned to Harlow as the communication ended. We need to be on the command deck for final calibrations. They hurried through the station's corridors, now crowded with personnel moving to emergency stations. The atmosphere was tense but disciplined. These were scientists and researchers, not military, but they understood what was at stake. The command deck was a flurry of controlled activity when they arrived. Station Director Harlow immediately assumed her position at the central console, while Chen moved to the science station, where he could monitor the quantum harmonics array. Status of the tachyon emitter, Harlow asked. Final calibrations complete, reported the chief engineer. Power levels at maximum sustainable output. On your command, Director. The main view screen showed the approaching Xylanthe fleet. 15 vessels in total, their crystalline structures gleaming against the blackness of space. The largest, which they had identified as the command vessel, led the formation with ominous purpose. The Defiant has taken position between the station and the Xylanthe fleet, announced the tactical officer. They're charging weapon systems. Chen studied the readings from the approaching vessels. Their phase-shifting technology is active. Conventional weapons will be minimally effective until we collapse their quantum state. Communication from the Defiant, said the communications officer. Commander Voss is requesting direct link. Voss's face appeared on a secondary screen, her expression set with grim determination. Director Harlow, Dr. Chen. The Xylanthe will be in range in 2 minutes. Are you ready? As ready as we'll ever be, Harlow replied. The tachyon emitter is prepared to fire on your mark. Good. We'll engage the command vessel the moment their quantum state collapses. Voss hesitated, then added, "Whatever happens here today, humanity will remember your courage." "And yours, Commander," Harlow said. "Good hunting." The communication ended, and all eyes turned to the view screen. The Xylanthi vessels had begun to spread out in an attack formation, their surfaces rippling with energy as they prepared to unleash the same devastating weapons that had crippled the Defiant at Meridian 7. Xylanthi vessels entering optimal range for the tachyon emitter, Chen announced. Energy buildup detected in their weapon systems. Harlow took a deep breath. Activate the tachyon emitter. Full power. The station hummed as enormous power was diverted to the modified quantum harmonics array. On the view screen, a barely visible wave of energy swept outward from the station, engulfing the Xylanthi fleet. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the alien vessels solidified. Their hulls, previously wavering between states of matter, became fully corporeal. Quantum collapse confirmed, Chen shouted. All Xylanthi vessels have been forced into our phase space. Emitter holding steady, but power fluctuations are increasing. We have 3 minutes maximum. On the view screen, the Defiant surged forward, its weapon systems unleashing a barrage of fire at the command vessel. Without their phase-shifting ability, the Xylanthi ships were suddenly vulnerable to conventional attacks. The command vessel's energy shields flared under the assault, but held. It returned fire, lances of exotic energy striking the Defiant's reinforced hull. The Defiant's shields are holding, but they won't last long against sustained fire, reported the tactical officer. The Xylanthi seemed to be concentrating their attack on the forward sections. Chen studied the sensor readings with growing concern. The command vessel is adapting to the quantum collapse. They're attempting to remodulate their phase-shifting technology. Can they do that? Harlow asked sharply. Theoretically, no, but their understanding of quantum mechanics clearly exceeds ours. If they manage to adjust their frequency. A new voice broke into the conversation. Commander Voss, broadcasting on an open channel. This is Commander Ilara Voss of the HSV Defiant to Proxima Centauri Research Station. Our conventional weapons aren't penetrating their shields quickly enough. We're changing tactics. On the view screen, the Defiant abruptly altered course, accelerating directly toward the Xylanthi command vessel. What are they doing? Harlow whispered, though Chen suspected she already knew the answer. The Defiant's fusion drive is overloading, Chen confirmed, reading the energy signatures. They're going to ram the command vessel. The Defiant's engines burned with blinding intensity as it closed the distance to the Xylanthi ship. The alien vessel attempted evasive maneuvers, but without its phase-shifting ability, it couldn't move quickly enough to escape. Commander Voss, Harlow called, her voice tight with emotion. There must be another way. Negative, Director, came Voss's calm reply. Our weapons can't penetrate their shields in time, and your emitter won't last much longer. This is the only way to ensure the command vessel's destruction. Chen checked the emitter's status. 1 minute of operational capacity remaining. Get your people to the escape pods, Commander, Harlow urged. You don't all need tow. The decision has been made, Director, Voss interrupted. The Defiant's crew has unanimously voted to see this through. We lost 3 million people at Meridian 7. We won't lose Proxima Centauri 2. The distance between the Defiant and the Xylanthi command vessel closed rapidly. The alien ship fired desperately, scoring hits against the human warship's hull, but the Defiant maintained its collision course. 30 seconds to impact, Chen said quietly. Tachyon emitter starting to fail. Voss's voice came one last time, calm and resolute. Dr. Chen, ensure the data from this engagement reaches Earth Command. They need to implement the Meridian Protocol throughout the fleet. I will, Commander. I promise. For Meridian 7, Voss said. For humanity. The Defiant slammed into the Xylanthi command vessel at near relativistic speed. For a brief, terrible moment, Both ships were outlined in stark relief against the blackness of space. Then the Defiant's overloaded fusion reactor detonated, creating a miniature sun that engulfed both vessels. The shockwave rippled outward, damaging several of the smaller Xylanthe ships. As the blinding light faded, the command vessel was gone, completely destroyed by the combined force of the impact and explosion. Tachyon emitter failing, Chen reported, his voice subdued. Quantum effect dissipating. On the view screen, the remaining Xylanthe vessels began to phase shift again, their forms becoming indistinct. But instead of pressing the attack, they seemed disoriented, their formations breaking apart. "They're retreating," Harlow said in disbelief. "Without the command vessel, they're withdrawing." One by one, the alien ships disappeared into faster-than-light jumps, leaving the Proxima Centauri system as quickly as they had arrived. The command deck was silent for a long moment, the magnitude of what had happened, both the victory and the sacrifice, sinking in. Chen was the first to speak. "The Meridian Protocol worked, and now we know their weakness. At a terrible cost," Harlow said quietly. "A cost Commander Voss and her crew willingly paid," Chen replied. "Now it's up to us to ensure their sacrifice wasn't in vain." He turned to his console and began compiling the data from the engagement. The specifications for the Tachyon emitter, the sensor readings of the Xylanthe vessels, the effectiveness of the quantum collapse. "I'm designating this data package the Meridian Protocol," he said. "With this, we can create defenses for every human settlement. We can build Tachyon emitters into our warships. We can fight back." Harlow nodded, her expression resolute despite the grief. "Send the data to Earth Command immediately. Priority Alpha clearance, and add a personal message from me." "What message?" Chen asked. Harlow looked at the empty space on the view screen where the Defiant had made its final stand. "Tell them that humanity has faced its darkest hour, and we have not blinked. Tell them that we now have the means to fight. And tell them," her voice caught, then steadied, "tell them that the crew of the HSV Defiant showed us what humanity stands for. Not just survival, but sacrifice. Not just intelligence, but courage." Chen nodded and added her words to the transmission. As the data package streamed toward Earth, he knew that this was only the beginning, that Xylanthe would return, possibly with new countermeasures against the Tachyon emitter. The war had just begun. But for the first time since the fall of Meridian 7, humanity had hope. They had the Meridian Protocol. They had the knowledge of how to fight back. And they had the example of Commander Ilara Voss and the crew of the Defiant, ordinary humans who had faced an overwhelming enemy, and through a combination of science, determination, and sacrifice, had prevailed. That Xylanthe might have superior technology. They might command forces that could consume entire worlds. But they had yet to learn the most important lesson about the species they had attacked. Humans didn't merely fight to survive. They fought for each other. They fought for the future. And they never, ever surrendered. As the stars continued their silent vigil above Proxima Centauri, Dr. Marcus Chen made a silent promise to his fallen comrades. The Meridian Protocol would be humanity's shield, and in time, it would become their sword. The war for survival had begun, and humanity would not go quietly into the void.